What should I drink today? This was funnier in my head.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of Twilight Zone reviews. A journey into a wondrous land of intoxication where a father, son, and guest drink and retell episodes of the Twilight Zone.
There is a fifth dimension.
Stay tuned because your next stop is the Highlight Zone After Hours.
The Twilight Zone.
And welcome to another episode of the Highlight Zone After Hours. Wow. I am pumped to record with my dad today, co-host. What's up, buddy?
And I am pumped to be with you here tonight.
Cheers, my man. Oh my God, we are running low already. But we're here, just him and I today, OG, talking about 2 episodes. We're talking about Static, and then I'll be retelling the Prime Mover. Same rules apply, 5-minute shot clock, all of that.
Love it.
Did you enjoy hearing from Donnie Trump?
Because I did. You know, it was nice for him to take time out to respond to some really in-depth questions.
So the hard hitting questions.
Oh yes, that no one else will ask.
No, that's the thing. You know, asking what he does for a flight. You know, what he gave his kids on their birthday.
Exactly. Those are the kind of things that mainstream media just will not touch. But we show no bounds. We go where no other podcast dares to go.
With the help of Mr. Donnie Trump. But Donnie's not with us today. But our guest announcer reading our intros and exits from every episode is our friend Andy. What's up, buddy? It's us again. I hope you can hear us. What we're going to do, let's see. Are you there, Andy?
Hey there, you guys. Steve and Kelly, I read you loud and clear. It's great to be here again. A lot of people say sorry. I feel like I was starting to do a Trump. It was awesome to see Donnie Trump on your guys' show. Is incredible. A lot of people say this is maybe the highest rated Twilight Zone podcast out there.
Nice. It's good to hear from you. So everyone could probably remember, if you go back and listen to Andy's episode, he was on the pilot episode of the After Hours Switch, which was a hilarious episode that went way off the rails. And Sierra was mad at me, and everybody was. But Andy has started a whole new thing, from the Diet Coke read to just the tone in general. So Andy, thanks for coming out with us today. Are you going to come back and do another guest appearance? When are you going to be coming back?
That was a great episode. Love the Diet Coke plug. I have been getting a kickback on that. I've been meaning to tell you that. I know they're like, hey, are you sponsored by that? I have been. We'll talk about that later. If you guys will have me back, I would love to come back for another episode.
Okay, great.
Well, we changed his life.
We did, absolutely.
By bringing him on, and I know that he appreciates that, so I'm excited to have him back on.
Me too. And since he did the show, he's not going to admit it openly. He has gotten new job promotions. He does all of these new things. He got a new van. The guy is awesome.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new...
His whole life has changed.
Andy.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like we discovered Andy in this world. But, Andy, can you tell the fans what it's like to drive a van?
You guys, that's very true. It has been life-changing. I don't want to brag too much, but I've been getting noticed because of the show. So it has. Obviously, it's not going to my head or anything. Steve, the van, it's good. I like to say that it's kind of like the sweatpants of the automobile world. It's like a lot of pockets, a lot of places to put things. It's super comfy, but everybody knows you've kind of like given up on life.
And then my follow-up question is, how do you compare it to driving a Honda Accord? Just
well, let's see what he says. Andy, what's the comparison between driving the van, between driving that and the Honda Accord?
It's not even close. The Honda Accord takes the cake by a long shot, especially one that may or may not have wood screws holding it together. Long story.
Great. All of these were really obscure jokes that no one's going to get, but Andy's going to help us out again tonight. So, Andy, thank you for being a part of this garbage. It's not garbage. No. This is great. This interview was going to be garbage with Andy. No, it's not.
No.
Why am I underselling this?
I don't know. You need to be building this thing up.
I do. I'm doing a real crap.
Because
I'm doing
Paramount Plus
job.
is going to get pissed if
I know.
we do not hold our own with them.
You're right. I should redo this whole beginning. I'm not going to, though, because that's not what we do here. Because the Long Islands are flowing and the memory starts going and all class leaves the room. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over 2 episodes today. Andy's going to read our intros and outros, but we're still doing the 5-minute shot clock.
Let's do it.
So today's featured episode is Static, and I cannot wait to talk about this episode when we're done. I'm sensing a difference of opinion on ratings on both of these episodes. By the way, go back and listen to the episode that we did with James. I have re-listened to it, obviously, 1,000 times for editing. Fascinating. It was really great to see 3 different ranges in opinion. We're going to lay it out how it is. If I think an episode is shite and you think it's great, there's no harm, no foul. But we're going to lay it out because some of these episodes are crap. I genuinely think that some of them are really bad. The good news is we haven't really gotten to many of those yet.
No, but I'm going to bring one forward tonight. So.
Yes! That's what I'm saying. I could tell from your face that there was going to be a difference, and I think that we should get into it.
But it's crap wrapped in a very nice package.
It absolutely. Here, so we're going to lay it out like we always do. I hope everyone enjoys. But, Dad, let's kick this thing off. Okay. Andy's going to read this. Season 2, episode 20 is Static.
Static aired March 10th, 1961, directed by Buzz Kulik. Written by Charles Beaumont, Oseo Rich, and Rod Serling. No one ever saw one quite like it, because that's a very special sort of radio. In its day, circa 1935, its type was one of the most elegant consoles on the market. Now with its fabric-covered speakers, its peculiar yellow dial, its serrated knobs, it looks quaint and a little strange. Mr. Ed Lindsay is going to find out how very strange soon when he tunes in to the Twilight Zone.
Okay. All right. Give me my clock.
All right. Let's do the shot clock. Are we ready?
Bring it on.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Here we go.
So I'll start this out by saying all of you that have ever watched an auto race, these races last for 3 hours. And when you're in lap 60 to lap 70, you don't care. You just want to see the crashes in lap 300. I think we're at that point in season 2 with Rod where some of these episodes are like those middle laps of a very long race.
I gotcha. I know what you're saying.
You follow what I'm saying
I do.
They're not bad. Nothing that he ever did was bad, but they're not the greatest. But there are some interesting little tweaks in it. So here we go. Static. Starts out with 7 old geezers that are sitting in a TV room of this old house, some retirement home, watching TV. And the old coot, he can't take it any longer. He's watching these stations, these game shows, and he just gets pissed. So he gets up, goes to the TV set, takes the knob. There were no remote controls back then. Starts flipping through the pages or the stations. And I love this because there were only 5 stations, and then he was back to the first station.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, there were not 120 stations back then. There were 5. So they get pissed at him, all the other geezers in this room. So he just gives up and he wanders upstairs to his bedroom. He plops down and he's thinking. He's pissed because what is happening in modern day cinema to him in the 60s isn't what it was when he was younger. So he gets this brilliant idea. And he gets up and he goes down to the basement, pulls blankets off old crap, and he finds an old wooden console radio that apparently, when he was committed to this old folks' home, they let him bring his gigantic console radio with him. So it's down in the basement. He dusts it off. A kid's spying at him through a window, and he encourages the kid to help him lift this thing up to his second floor bedroom. So gets it all up, plugs it in. I'll be damned if he doesn't find a station. This station is playing great 30s and 40s music.
Big band, Tommy Dorsey.
Yeah, Tommy Dorsey stuff. So he's listening to this Tommy Dorsey for a while, and he's just loving this music. So he heads down to the dinner because a gal comes up who you find out is his sort of it's a love story. This is number 2, and it seems like I've done both love stories from the Twilight Zone so far in 2 episodes or 2 seasons, and this is a quiet little love story.
It is.
So this gal comes up and says, you got to come down to dinner, and he bitches at her, and she says, I don't really care if you come down or not. I was just told to tell you it's dinner time, so come down. So he heads down there, and he starts talking about this show, and everyone's sort of blowing him off because he's singing the tune to himself. And this old guy who's a professor asks him, what song is that? It's a Tommy Dorsey song. And he goes, where'd you hear it from? Well, it's on the radio. Well, are you sure? Well, anyway, they don't believe him. So he heads back up.
Yeah, because they say Tommy Dorsey died a few years ago.
Right, because Tommy Dorsey was dead, as well as another band leader that was also another song that he mentioned. So he goes back up again and tries it, and he's got this professor with him, and all he gets is static. So he can't figure this out, why the radio worked before, but it doesn't work now. So the professor sort of gives him this leer, as well as this gal that followed the professor up. They both sort of look at each other, give it up, and they go back down. So once they're gone, he turns it in and starts getting Tommy Dorsey again. But it's only when he's there alone. So he goes down the next day, and he has breakfast, goes back up to his room, and he sees some movers that are coming in. They've apparently, these two old people, had his console radio repossessed without him knowing it. So they gave it to the junk man. He blows a gasket. So he heads to the junk store. Apparently everyone knows where the junk store is. Do you know where yours is?
No.
I don't know where my junk is. It's been so, of course, that's an age thing. Sorry about that. But anyway, he goes to the junk man. The junk man makes him pay $10 for him to buy his old console radio back, which I thought was, that should be a trivia question. How much did he pay for his own radio? So anyway, he hauls this carcass of this radio back up to his room, turns it back on, and lo and behold, there's Tommy Dorsey playing again. So he tells the people to come up, that it's back on. They don't believe him, but the professor and the gal come back up. Nothing but static again. They leave. He gets really pissed, but he turns the radio on, and there's Dorsey, and he goes to the door, and she comes walking in. She'd been waiting. So she comes in, and she hears the music. He looks at her, and suddenly he's transformed into his own self from 20 years earlier. She's a 20-year-old younger person. The long story short is they were supposed to be married. Something got in the way of their marriage. It never happened. But she hears the music now with him. They embrace. End of story.
Yeah. All right. So we forgot to say it at the beginning, but Andy, tell us what happens. What does he say at the end?
Around and around she goes, and where she stops, nobody knows. All that Lindsay knows is that he desperately wanted a second chance, and he finally got it. Through a strange and wonderful time machine called a radio in the Twilight Zone.
All right, so you went slightly over. Last time you were at 4 minutes.
I did. I apologize for that. I must have gotten into
No. There's no apology needed. That's why this is a fun episode to do. Well, all of these are fun. The clock is just a healthy guideline.
I just like watching this old coot haul this gigantic box up and down his the old folks' home.
Okay, so I want to, before we get into reviews and opinions, I want to read something that is not the intro or the outro. It's a quote, and it's from the episode. It's going to take a minute because I wrote it down, but I don't want this to affect your rating and make you think that if you didn't like this one, that it's you can't, whatever. I want to read this because I thought it was deeply sweet. Okay. Vinny, that's the character. He goes, "You can't change what you are, and neither can I. We had our chance and missed it, Ed." Wait, no, that's her name. My bad. We missed it, Ed. But I'll tell you one thing that's true, and I know it's true. You did love me as much as any man has ever loved a woman, didn't you? Ed says, "Yes, Vinny, that's true. I did. Yes."
And he struggled in his answer of that. Remember, he paused because he's sort of a crusty old bird.
Well, hold on. Okay. And then Vinny goes, "And now you love what we were, what we might have become together. So just about this time every year, it would have been our anniversary. You start getting unhappy. You want to go back to 1940 and start all over again. Why do you think you keep hearing Getting Sentimental Over You on the radio? That was our song, Ed. And these programs, we used to listen to them together in the dark. I'd forgotten. When you hear these programs, you're like a young man again with all of your life ahead of you. But it isn't so, Ed. It's all over between us. We missed our chance. We can't go back." Okay, so
I told you it was a love story.
This was okay. What's your rating? Because we need to get into that.
I gave it a 6 only, and a 6 isn't bad. A 6 just is. It doesn't. It didn't have the suspense. It wasn't really an original thought because we've already seen a couple of these going back in time scenarios on the Twilight Zone episodes before this, and there wasn't any real great twist at the end. It was sweet, and it was a good story. And when they embrace it at the end, you really feel it. The acting I thought was superb. I thought all the players did their jobs extremely well.
Agreed. This is one of those ones that I think from now on, every episode I will have already seen and have rated, with an exception of about 12 I went through. So this one I already had, and I had it as a 7, but then rewatching it again this week to freshen up on there, I raised it up to an 8, and I'm not going to lie, I cried the last time I watched it. This last bit with those two talking about it killed me, because who doesn't want to think of a better time? Right? I think about it literally every single moment of my life. It's one of those things. But the thing that kills me about this is, I think, and they didn't say it exclusively, does he have dementia, and is he got Alzheimer's?
Yes.
Because they clearly have this dynamic, and it reminds me of The Notebook, which is obviously a massive popular film, and I think, is it just a film? It might be a book too. I don't know. I don't really care, but the idea that he's in here, and the radio is the one thing that's not sentimental, the one thing that's not real, right? That's the thing that's the extra, what do we call it? Extraterrestrial? What is it? Supernatural. It's the one thing in this episode that's supernatural, is the radio only plays old music to him. And it made me think, is it even playing music for him? Is there even anything supernatural going on? This is just a 22-minute, to me, a deafening love story, and a sad one at that. And to be honest, I love this episode deeply after rewatching it. I will say one thing. I do think it doesn't feel like a Twilight Zone episode.
No, and maybe that's why the 6 for me, because
it
doesn't meet my shot criteria.
Almost none of your shot criteria in this one, which I did think about going into reading this or redoing this, was because I was like, this doesn't feel like a Twilight Zone episode. It definitely doesn't. The next one we're about to do definitely does. The last ones we did all super did. This one is a very sweet story that is moving, and it tells a tale of wishing that things were different, but also I think that I think that he has Alzheimer's.
The woman and the old professor, they kept a very close eye on him, and they followed him upstairs when he went upstairs. And then they had the radio removed, sold it to the junk guy. They did that, not him. So they were worried about him. So there's a lot of innuendo that he's not all together. But at the end, when she says, I hear the music, and they embrace, you don't get more loving and more sincere than that last scene. So even though it's a love story, this is a Rod Serling story that ended up in a very emotional embrace. You can't detract from that. That was great.
Absolutely. Just so we're talking ratings, before we go into some trivia, on IMDb it has a 6.7. So people are tracking with your opinion on it. And I don't have a bad thing to say about it, but I just think the one thing is, maybe it doesn't fit with the overall tone of the show.
It's what people are watching the show about.
I can imagine getting your family around the TV in March of 1961 when this came out, after just watching the one that we did with the airplanes and all that stuff, going back in time, expecting something riveting, and this is riveting, but completely different. I think that little kids and 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds who are just sitting there watching the Twilight Zone,
they're going to get bored with this thing in 5 minutes.
And that's why I think that your rating is absolutely what most people think, at a 6.7. So anyway, there is a bunch of weird trivia on this one, though, and I thought that was interesting. Okay, first of all, you're going to like this one. This was the fifth of the six Twilight Zone episodes to be videotaped. We've already talked about that. So good news is, for all of you that hate the videotaped ones like we do, the good news is there's a lot of trivia on that. This episode was filmed entirely indoors on 2 sets, meaning that the audio and the video of being on videotape were very minor. And I agree. I don't think it was distracting like some of the other ones. I'm like, God, this looks like crap. I did not notice
it. It wasn't a deterrence in watching this one.
I guess because it was recorded and filmed in such a small studio that it didn't really matter. I thought that was interesting. The closing, this one I love. This one got me really excited. The closing monologue ends with Tommy Dorsey's theme song, I'm Getting Sentimental Over You, instead of the typical Twilight Zone music. I did not notice that until rewatching it. I'm like, this one ended weird. Yeah. In 1940, Vinny refers to Ed Wynn. Wynn, who made 2 guest appearances later on the Twilight Zone in the One for the Angels, which is one of our favorites, with the peddler on the street, and then 90 Years Without Slumbering in 1963. So if you go back and you watch this episode, or you follow our lead and go, well, that's what I just said, go watch it, you hear her say, like, that's this, and Ed Wynn was on TV. Yep. How great is it that Ed Wynn was on 2 episodes of this show? I thought that was really cool. That is cool. Like, that's a shout out. Cool. The station Ed hears on his radio, WPDA, was fictitious. However, just 5 years later, in 1966, WPDA was licensed in Jefferson, New York, and the station still broadcasts today.
That is awesome.
Right?
That is too cool.
Fascinating.
I love that, yeah.
And then the last one is this episode takes place in 1961 and 1940. So, and I like the music there. That's half of what Sarah and I listen to is either Soul Town or 40s Junction on Sirius. Tommy Dorsey is part of that group. So I deeply enjoyed that time period, and Benny Goodman is my man. So, all right. So there we go with that one. We're going into my review. But before we get to that, I'm going to send it over to Andy. Andy, read us our intro, baby.
The Prime Mover aired March 24th, 1961. Directed by Richard L. Baer, written by Charles Beaumont and Rod Serling. Portrait of a man who thinks and thereby gets things done. Mr. Jimbo Cobb might be called a prime mover, a talent which has to be seen to be believed. That's a tough one. In just a moment, he'll show his friends and you how he keeps both feet on the ground and his head in the Twilight Zone.
Andy, thank you for the intro. Do you got a refill? Of course you got a refill. Yeah. Look at us. All right. Here we go. Let me make sure I got my info ready. Got it. Got to get a pregame drink. I hope everyone is watching along with these because these episodes are great.
I hope they're drinking along with these also.
If you're listening to this in your car, you might not want to do that.
Don't drink, please.
Do it when you get back.
Do not, yes.
All right. Here we go with The Prime Mover, which is, as Andy just said, season 2, episode 51. I forgot. I'm not reading those anymore because Andy's doing it for us. Here we go. Ready for the shot clock?
Hit the start, man.
Here we go. 5 minutes starting now. The Prime Mover. This is an interesting story about it. I feel very much like there are vibes of Mice and Men in here between the main two people, because you've got Ace, who is the protagonist / kind of antagonist, I guess you could say, of the story, even though he's not really a bad guy. He's just an idiot. And they work at this remote diner, kind of like something you would see on Old Route 66. Yep. And in this diner, there's a little a slot machine that will be relevant trivia later. You already know where I'm going with that. And Ace is in this one. He's talking to Kitty, which is his, I guess, kind of girlfriend associate. It's a weird kind of dynamic that gets it a little bit later. And the person that runs the restaurant or diner, I think, and his name is Buddy. And Buddy's a taller guy. Anyway, so Ace is like, man, I never get the good stick. I never get anything. Everything comes my way. You know, he's angry that he never gets the good luck, right? After this one guy puts a quarter in the thing and wins. So anyway, they hear a commotion outside, and actually a really great car flip. A really good car flip outside. They show a car just driving down the street. It flips over and rolls and hits into a big electric, what do you call those things?
Yeah, substation.
A substation. Big power. Big electric.
Substation.
And so Ace is like, you got to come and help me, buddy. Come and there's people in there. So they go outside, and he cannot get close to the car because it's totally electric shock.
Yeah, you
shit
see
everywhere.
The electricity sparking off this
everywhere.
thing.
Well, then Buddy quietly closes his eyes and through telekinesis lifts the car, rolls it off, and the people are saved. And Ace is like, what do you mean? What did you just do? And he goes, I've been able to do this my whole life. I can kind of move things with my mind. And he's like, what? You've been slaving away at this place this whole time, and you could have been like moving shit and making you. Why are you wasting your time doing this? You could be rich. And he goes, well, how would I be rich on this little ability? And so he goes, I got an idea. And he's like, so we're going to Vegas. I think they're already in Vegas. They're in Nevada.
They're an hour or so away. Yeah, they're close.
So he's like, we're going over to Vegas. So he gets Buddy. He goes, well, what can you move? Can you move this? And he's like, well, yeah, the smaller things are easier. And he does a test. He goes, if I flip a coin, can you flip it? He goes, well, of course I can flip a coin. And he flips a coin on the bed, and the coin flips over. And then he goes, well, what about this? And he throws a pair of dice. And he goes, can you flip these over? He goes, yeah, of course. So every time he does it, if you're watching on the video, Buddy does this face. He kind of goes like this. He kind of closes an eye and winks his head like he's flipping the things over. So he's like, we're going to Vegas. We're going to make this work. So he brings Kitty and Buddy, and they go to Vegas, and they start at the roulette table, which is exactly what I would do. And they start going over there, and he goes, 4 black. And he whatever, he goes a 4 black, and it hits. Because Buddy made it stop on 4 black. Then he gets out of control and he's like, I'm going to let it ride. I'm going to put more on here. And so he's going on and on and on. And the whole time there's a montage of Buddy flipping the thing and making it work. And he starts rolling craps and he hits 7 and 11 and it's all this other crap. And it's going his way. And it cuts to this scene at the end where they're taking what looks like big box. Well, it is boxes of just cash.
Oh,
just
yeah.
tons
Cardboard
of cash,
boxes
big
full
ones,
of bundled cash. Yeah.
Tons of cash. And so they leave and they're in the hotel room and he's like, we're going to do it. It's going to be great. And she goes, isn't this enough? Like, this is enough money that you could spend in a lifetime. Well, you could stop doing this. And Buddy's like, yeah, this is cheating. I'm feeling bad. We're cheating. And he goes, no, we're just going to do one more big save. One more big one. This is where Ace becomes a total douchebag. And he goes, and Kitty says, I don't want any part of it. So she leaves. So he goes back to the casino and he starts flirting with the cigarette girl, pays her off, and pays off the boss to hang out with her. That's important because I think that's the reason why the end happens the way that it does. So he goes, hey, to the casino boss, who's the biggest gambler? And he goes, we have this guy from Chicago in town. He's a big roller. He kind of looks connected when he shows up.
He's a gangster.
He goes, tell him that Ace called. So he sends him over and he shows up to this guy's hotel room. And in the hotel room is Buddy and Ace because Kitty already left. And it's his heavy
The cigarette
set.
girl is also coming in.
She does show up. She shows up in a minute. So they show up and he's like, all right, well, let's get this going. And, and he's like, well, what do you want to bet? And he goes, well, let's play craps. Or he's throwing dice and they're just playing this dice game. Anyway, he starts off with the handle and then they do a montage of Buddy flipping over the dice and making it work. And this guy is crushing. The Chicago mobster guy is sweating. And then it gets a little bit too far and the cigarette lady comes in and starts flirting with Ace. And Buddy is like, what are you doing? You have Kitty. Why are you messing this up? So he kind of gives him a face. And he's like, Ace. And he's trying to tell him. And he goes, no, one more. Just one more. And you can obviously see where this is going. He goes, one more. And he's like, Ace.
He keeps trying to interrupt him.
He keeps trying to interrupt him. And he won't freaking listen. And so he goes, all right. And he grabs the cigarette girl. He throws the dice.
He says all or nothing. He throws all of his money in.
He throws all of it. So now he's got all of his $200,000. Ah, shit. There goes my timer. I just went over just like you.
Keep going.
All right. Here we go. We'll wrap this up. He throws all of the dice. He puts all the money, throws the dice. And before he even sees the number, he's grabbing the cigarette girl like, I told you, we just got millions of dollars. And the gangster guy goes, yeah, good luck next time, idiot. He doesn't say that, but he's like, give me a call next time. And he pats his belly and he walks off with all the cash. And he's looking and he looks over at Buddy and Buddy's like, something broke, a fuse snapped. I tried to tell you I couldn't do it anymore. And he kept going. And he's like, what? A fuse snapped. So anyway, the cigarette girl leaves and he just starts maniacally laughing like, oh shit, I just lost everything. So anyway, they go back at the end and they're back at the diner and he goes, well, I'm back to my other life. I'm really sorry about this, Kitty. Will you marry me? And Buddy's like, yeah, I hope this works out. And she's like, yes, I will. And then they kiss. And while they're kissing, you see Buddy, who's about to start cleaning up and giving them privacy. He, instead of grabbing the broom from the floor, which is, by the way, a reference to a Star Wars movie that they copy later, he's about to get down and lift it up. Instead, he just uses his mind and lifts it up. So clearly there was no fuse that was broken. That is the end. Andy, what does Rod say at the end of this episode?
Some people possess talent. Others are possessed by it. When that happens, the talent becomes a curse. Jimbo Cobb knew right from the beginning. But before Ace Larson learned that simple truth, he had to take a short trip through the Twilight Zone.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. We will see you in a future episode. Love having you on. All right, so here we go. On IMDb, this episode has a 7. I gave this a 6. There's obviously the twist. The story is very clear. It's just kind of dumb.
There were two things about this. I gave it an 8. So this is the great thing about this.
We're crossing paths.
Those of you that have been watching sitcoms and shows from the 70s, you all know the Beverly Hillbillies. I thought his name was Jimbo. Who's the big tall guy?
Buddy.
Okay, Buddy is Jed on the Beverly Hillbillies. You look at him, he's a younger Jed, who went hunting in the hills and up through the ground, come a bubble in crude, move away from here, go to Beverly Hills. So this is the Beverly Hillbillies guy playing this role. And the second thing was, you mentioned it early on, the slot machine. There's one slot machine in this thing.
Wait, oh, I'm sorry. No, his name is Jimbo. I kept on calling him Buddy.
Jimbo.
His name is Buddy Ebsen.
Yeah, but
oh my
Jimbo.
God, I was saying it wrong. I'm sorry, guys. It's Jimbo.
Jimbo is Buddy Ebsen. He's Jed on Beverly Hillbillies. But the slot machine, there's only one at the entrance to this little diner. This is the same slot machine that in series episode
Franklin. This is part of our trivia. In the opening, a slot machine is used by the main character. The slot machine is the same one used in The Fever 1960, which is an older gentleman is obsessed with the machine. So he's back. So I think that this episode was I did raise it. This is one I've noticed that maybe it's just rewatching these, I have more of appreciation. I had this as a 5 before.
Okay.
And it's up to a 6 because I had a little bit more fun with this time. I'll tell you what I told Sarah after watching it. I'm so sick of dumb decisions by people. I deeply believe that this episode, if it was developed into a film or one of the 1-hour episodes, would have been better because you could have really shown his decline into the obsession with winning. This one, it was a very short 3-minute thing. The fact that he abandoned Kitty just to go after this ridiculously proportioned cigarette girl. By the way, if you want to know what I'm talking about, just go watch the episode. I don't even understand what is happening here. It's wild. But it just annoyed me. Yeah. I'm just so annoyed the whole time. I'm like, what is this? Also, I don't understand the relationship between Jimbo and Kitty. Is that his daughter? Are they coworkers? Are they cousins? Like, what the hell is their relationship? Because Jimbo literally stops helping this guy and costs him $2 million because he doesn't like his decision. And that's totally okay. That's the entire point. But who is he?
I think they were old friends. I think Jimbo and Ace were just old buddies from way back. And Jimbo was along there, didn't like where Ace was going.
Okay.
The gal was the waitress and fell in love with Ace. You knew that they were boyfriend and girlfriend, but she didn't want anything to do with him. Jimbo, I thought, was trying to keep the two of them just together.
I guess I could see that. It wasn't very clear. So the whole time
You're right, it wasn't.
When Jimbo changed his mind and screwed him over, he didn't screw him over. He tried to give him ample warning. Ace is the bad guy here, so I'm not trying to fault Jimbo. That came off poorly. It was just I didn't understand his motives because he only changed his mind when he went too far by flirting with the cigarette girl, and that's what I'm like. Okay, are they related? Is that his daughter? Maybe like. I don't think so.
Ace was obsessive compulsive. This guy and his gambling habits, and then throwing caution to the wind. All the bad decisions he made, even though she said yes to the marriage proposal and they hugged, I'm going to guess that later that night they would get into an argument and she'd leave him for good. I didn't see anything lasting there.
No.
I saw, as the star of this story was Jimbo, and the twist at the end, I was not expecting the broom to come back up because I was so into the rest of the story that I was pleasantly surprised to see him use his telekinesis or whatever and raise the broom. I thought that was very subtle, but it told the whole story.
So I already tried to pull the clip for this, and I know it's going to get us taken off of the internet, so I can't put it in here. But in Star Wars, at the end of the movie, the little boy who you don't know is a Jedi, instead of picking up the broom with his hands, he uses the Force. It's exactly what he did in this.
That's so cool.
Like exactly the same. 2 bits of trivia on this one that I haven't already read. The film clip of the car crash is from the end of Thunder Road. So they didn't film this for them, which is obviously makes sense because they had such a tight budget. So they took something else, but that's a hell of a good car crash. And this I actually thought was interesting. And you probably know about this because you know way more engineering stuff than I do. The title refers to the propulsion unit of a transportation system. So the prime mover would be the engine of a car, the tractor unit of a semi-tractor trailer, the motor on a locomotive, or a truck that tows an artillery gun. Also in philosophy, a self-caused being that is the cause of all things. I don't know what that means, but that's what it is. I just thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
All right. See, I like we're totally missing past, but I do like that because we're not just apologists.
But we're talking about it. We still found some great things.
Are you kidding me? It's absolutely fantastic.
Motivate those listening or watching to watch it themselves. If nothing else, watch it to see Buddy.
Yeah,
in his early career before he became Jed the millionaire, Jed Clampett.
Right. Yeah.
It's fun to watch. You're right, but this is why I said I think this is lap 60. These 2 episodes of a 200 lap race. If you know what I mean by that, it's the middle. You're trying to get somewhere, but this isn't it. These 2 episodes had some interesting pieces to them. They weren't what we would consider the classic Twilight Zone episodes, but each one of them still had some surprises.
It did.
And were good stories.
The next 3 episodes, if we do them in order of all 3, are traditional Twilight Zone episodes, and one of them has a 10 rating from me, and it is J.J. Abrams' favorite episode of TV history. So we have this coming up in the next few, and then after that, there's another one that is Sarah's favorite episode of the Twilight Zone, or one of the few. So we like to end these shows on a this or that. And since there's only 2 questions, I have 2 for you this time.
All right.
This or that. Telekinesis or time travel? If you could control one of the 2, would you rather have telekinesis, like Buddy, or whatever the hell his name was? I got it wrong.
Time travel.
Time travel?
I would love to be able to go forward and back, or just back.
I'm always looking at money, and I'm trying to figure out
you equate it
which
to what
I
could you do with that.
And I think you could do more with time travel, but I think I would have more fun with telekinesis.
Oh, there's no doubt.
I would be the most amazing baseball player of all time. Every hit that would be a hit would be a home run. I would play until I was 60. I'd be the oldest baseball player in history because I'd still be crushing bombs. But time travel is better, I guess. So I guess I'm gonna go with telekinesis. I think there's a lot more risk involved with time travel. And then here's
as you get older, you'll be glad that you could use your mind to lift things off the floor rather than bending over to pick them up.
Just a broom. Except in the future, we will use it to pick up our Swiffers. Well, that's a stupid joke. We already have Swiffers. Now we have Roombas that do it for us.
I've been doing that for years. And you're my son. Don't you have that skill?
I don't. You did not pass down. Just like Donnie Trump, you didn't give me $1 million on my 21st birthday. Okay, this or that. We are recording this on November 1st, meaning that last night was Halloween. Meaning I have a very important Halloween question for you. This or that. Okay. Circus peanuts or circus animals? Those are those 2 garbage candies that you get. Either the circus peanuts that are like the doorstops that Tracky says, or those circus animals that are the white and pink little cookies with the hard little...
I can almost taste that aftertaste of the animal crackers, so I'm going to say no on that. I'm going to go with the peanuts.
No freaking way.
I'm sorry, I have to do it.
Fascinating. Well, that's bizarre. Bonnie would eat the circus animal crackers with her hair on fire. It's one of her favorite things.
I've seen her do that before. It's pretty cool to watch.
So we'll see if we can get her to do that on the next episode of this show. I would rather die than have either. These are the worst candies of all time, but if I had to be put up against it, I'm having those stupid little crackers.
Okay.
I don't like the texture of circus peanuts. Do you have a favorite Halloween candy?
We talked about that while we were enjoying the trick-or-treating. I love M&Ms, but it's hard to package those as a Halloween treat unless you get the little boxes. But I've always loved M&Ms as my favorite treat.
Okay, wait a minute.
But the other thing is Reese's Pieces.
Oh, wait, Pieces or Cups?
The Reese's Cups.
All right, that's the GOAT. That's my favorite. Also, they did a poll, Arizona, which is where we live. That's the number 1 Halloween candy is Reese's. Not Pieces, but Cups.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you said that because growing up, Mom used to like Rolos. That was a big one in the house. She used to like Rolos.
Yeah, those are great.
You were always lifesavers. You had them in your desk drawer always, and I would steal an entire roll like every day in the summer. I know you knew that. You were a good sport. You let me take your candy. But I always remember you being a Snickers guy. Snickers was your go-to candy for years. But I'm surprised to hear that. I do like that, though. What's your opinion on Milky Way?
I like Milky Ways, and I also like Butterfingers.
Oh, Butterfingers,
so
screw
that. Butterfingers
are the shit.
Will trump everything else.
Yeah.
Except a Reese's.
Or M&M's. And you're just
M&Ms,
regular? Just regular, not peanut?
Don't throw anything inside it. Don't wrap anything around
not it. Not minis, just the straight up OG.
Up M&Ms. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
M&Ms. I can't remember the last time anyone I even knew went to the store and bought the full-size bag of M&Ms. It's always just a candy that you get at Halloween. You know, the small bags. Yeah. That's weird. Cool. Not in a mean way.
Well, I've always been woke because they come in all different colors. So
yeah, nicely done. Oh, look at you, diversity.
I'll tell you what.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. This has been a fun episode, my friend.
This has been great. Thank
we
you,
will
Steve.
see you next time. We are rapidly approaching the end of season 2. Season 2 of the Twilight Zone. I just want to read off some of the episodes in case you wanted to know. We have 100 Yards Over the Hill. We also have The Silence coming up. And then more importantly, we have Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up coming. So we will get someone to come in and join us for those fun reviews because those are amazingly famous episodes of the Twilight Zone. And then we have to start getting ready for season 3. So thank you for sticking around. We've been around now for a year and a half.
Yep.
Yeah, a year
It's
and a
been a
half.
blast.
So thank you guys again. Subscribe, like, and share. Paramount Plus, right on.
Paramount Plus, all of you zoners out there, thanks for sharing your time with us, and we've had a blast doing this for you. So
That we'll see you next time.
Enjoy.
Zoners.
thank you.
We'll see you in another dimension.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where is this place and when is it? The answer is it doesn't make any difference.
Can you say eggs?